Today we're doing a market watch on 15 stash players for Dynasty Fantasy Football. We're going over the player values. We're going over why they're so cheap. On top of that, we're not talking about any rookies today. They're just stash vets because rookies are rookies. They're easy calls. All of them are either stashes or speculative plays. So they are out of this. So if you're wondering why this rookie's not in here, that's why. They are stashes. Just know that. But we're going to dig in. But before you do, you need to click that subscribe button right now. We're going hard in the paint, looking at these players every single day to help you build your dynasty teams from rookie camps to training camps, the footage from that. We're looking at the college game, looking at these prospects for rookie drafts and everything else. Click that button. Stop missing out. First player we're going to talk about today, Jalil McLaughlin. And he is under the radar right now, 181 ADP. It's down there a bit, and he's at the price of startup drafts where you're just picking up speculative running backs, and he's very cheap. And what I think about him as a stash is Sean Payton's mentioned him in press conferences a few times this offseason, saying he will have a role or looks for him to have a role. And then you look at the other running backs on this depth chart. You got Williams, Pirine, Estime. He's different from them. He has a different skill set. So he's going to give them a little bit of different juice when he's out there in the backfield. He can catch some balls out of the backfield and everything like that. I do not recommend you build your team around Broncos, but you got to play money ball where you can play money ball. This is a money ball option for you if you're looking to build on the back end of your depth chart for a stash play for this season. Khalil Herbert, stash play for 2023. Not a long one, but DeAndre Swift has an injury history. DeAndre Swift has had an extensive one throughout his career. That could crop up. He has got good size adjusted athleticism. When Khalil Herbert's healthy on the field, he is very productive. This is pretty much a new offense right now that is looking to be possibly more explosive, if not ramping up to be. So that's something you may want to be in. 177 ADP, RB58. He's a speculative ad to see what happens for the short term. Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver 103. That is free. And look at what he did in the back end of the season last year. No wide receiver 1 weeks, but he hit a 20 spot, a couple 15 spots, double-digit weeks. They like him. He was a redraft dandy, a guy that everybody was pulling up off the waivers. And he was good in Baltimore to an extent, too. He flashed there, and maybe we can get some more flashes, but he's free. He's cheap. If you want to speculate on wide receivers, Jalen Hyatt's another one. And why we're looking at him is because he's an air yards dandy. He's free. Of course, Malik Neighbors is going to get all the targets. So he better get all the targets. You got Wan'Dale Robinson there, who should be getting a target share. You also got Slayton. But an ADOT of over 20-something you want. Great in best ball. I imagine his ADP is a little higher in best ball, but he's going to have some spike weeks here and there. He had a 15-point game in week 12. He can be productive, but he's a guy that you're just hoping to get that splash play from time to time. I doubt it he'll ever reach a 20+% target share. Maybe 15 to 18 if he's lucky down the line. But deep ball specialist, maybe some Will Fuller games. Jaylen Tolbert. The thing about him, the Cowboys did not bring in any wide receivers of consequence. Michael Gallup's gone. This team looks like they might be throwing it. Look at the running back depth chart. It's kind of scary. The offensive line's a little bit volatile right now. And now we're looking at this team, and we're hearing reports from beats around the Dallas area that, hey, they like Jaylen Tolbert. Jaylen Tolbert might be ramping up a little bit. He might be due to him being a G5 prospect that was productive. And he is an ancillary wide receiver on this team. But ADP 214, wide receiver 88, who cares? And the market's starting to say, hey, we're noticing this because look at the ADP on the graph here. It is going up. And his workload went up a little bit from his rookie season to last year. Although it's infinitesimal, it is still some increase to note. He will be on the field more. He will be on the field more unless he gets blown up in training camp. Next is Darnell Mooney, wide receiver 84. I just have to keep pointing him out. I don't see that many people talking about him, but I'm not really listening to anybody either. But also the ADP dropped a little bit, and he was from the Bears. Remember the Bears offense. It was not the greatest. Now we got Kirk Cousins, the greatest show on turf over at Hotlanta with Drake London and Pitts and company, even Bijan there. We have some wide receiver 1 weeks to his name. He was a hot commodity coming out as a rookie with the deep ball attempts. He's going to get deeper balls than a 10.5 ADOT. 13, 14, 15 ADOT. He's going to have some splash performances. He's going to be volatile, but you're drafting him in the 205 range, past the 200 ADP marker, which if you're looking for a wide receiver in a good offense, that's probably not going to be consistent, but it's probably going to help your team. Darnell Mooney's a get. Eric Gray, RB71. Remember, we're not talking about rookies today, but his name's down there. There's a rookie down there you want to look at, but Eric Gray's getting some hype up for minicamp. They're saying he's looking good, but it's also minicamp. I talk about a lot of minicamp. I look at a lot of minicamp. It's minicamp. It's against air. You're doing the basics. You're ramping up the schemes and concepts to get ready for training camp. That being said, the beat writers are talking him up a little bit. He's RB71, ADP of 223. We got Devin Singletary there. Looks like he's going to be the lead back. He's free as well. This backfield's got some free chips. I believe this is all going to be on Malik Neighbors' shoulders because if he hits, if he splashes, if he's truly their Justin Jefferson, then everything else is going to increase to a degree. I'm not going to say it's going to go off, but it's going to increase to a degree where it's going to help some things for some of the other players in this offense. Eric Gray is a commodity that's dirt cheap. He's also on the rise. Dynasty gamers are starting to draft him up. His value might get too high here soon. Mike Gesicki, tight end 39. The market's not hip to this. He's with the Bengals. Bengals tight ends had 84 targets for 668 yards last year. Take that for what you will. It's not like they've been tremendous at the tight end position. It's not like Mike Gesicki's been tremendous at the tight end position. But if he was, and if the Bengals was, we would not be tight end 39. But we do have some upside with the size of just athleticism. It is the Bengals offense. And if you're looking at it this way, say you build up a tight end with a Sam Laporta and you faded the position due to you needed to hammer wide receivers and running backs because you spent that early draft capital, and now it's time to look for another tight end and you missed a bit, so you faded a bit, this might be an option you're going for in startup drafts. Or in trade, he's free. He has to be free. Look how low those lines are on the ADP graph. Alexander Madison, RB70, ADP 222. Running backs get hurt. Running backs get hurt. He's proven to give you some production. He's good between the tackles. He's reliable. They signed him because he's reliable. Dylan Labe is going to catch balls out of the backfield. We're not looking at him as a pass catcher, but running backs get hurt. We know he can be productive. We know why they signed him. And if that happens, he can be good on the back end of your roster. Greg Dortch, the wide receiver 86, ADP 208. And Rondale Moore's gone. Rondale Moore's gone. He's going to be in a slot more. Marvin Harrison Jr., I want to see his target share. I imagine it's going to be high. But there might be a rookie ramp up. But Trey McBride's going to get a good target share. So there may be not enough targets to go around for him to be consistent, but he's going to get the short ADOT in this offense. This team's used to having the short ADOT, and Kyler Murray's used to having the shorter ADOT wide receiver. That being said, Greg Dortch, if he was taller, they're saying he would be a more productive wide receiver in the NFL, a more prolific wide receiver. That being said, he has been productive off and on throughout his career. It's spotty, but ADP 208, you might be taking that. That's a guy you may want to stash for this year. Jake Hayner, super flex, no ADP, looking good in minicamp, and a lot of people are questioning Carr. So if you're questioning Carr, look at the backups. Everybody's after Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler's more for the speculative upside. Jake Hayner's more for if he wins the camp battle for this year, gets that backup job, something happens to Carr, then he might breathe on the field and you may be able to trade for an ROI, and that's about it. Kenny McIntosh is a running back that needs to be on notice right now because he can catch balls out of the backfield. He's good at that. High-end recruit coming out of high school. Fell in the draft. But Kenneth Walker, Zach Charbonnet, injury histories of both of them. We saw that last year. Usually one of these running backs are dinged up between the three. That being said, if that happens this year, he might get some opportunities, and he's free. There's no ADP on him. He's not getting drafted. If he's not getting drafted, and if he sniffs the field, you can get a return on investment because it's so low right now. Cordell Patterson, one Arthur Smith. He's following Arthur Smith. And then you look at this depth chart. You got George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin. You got the running backs, so you can catch passes. Probably going to be a hybrid wide receiver running back. Might get you some spike weeks. I'm not going to go too deep into the Steelers offense, but it's going to be a little bit weird, and you might catch a weird player with some spotty production, like a Darnell Washington, due to Arthur Smith, because we know he likes to bring out the tight end too. He's going into his second season. We have premier size, adjusted athleticism here, 6'7", 264. He might be coming all over that. Darnell Washington is a guy with upside. We're not stashing tight ends. We don't stash that many tight ends. Don't stash a ton of tight ends. Don't have a dynasty team that's just flooded with tight ends. Get your main guys, 1 or 2 main tight ends, and maybe one stash. But do not have a ton of tight ends stashed. That is wasted roster spots. Don't do that. Moving on, John Mechie. Looking good in minicamp, catching balls. Looks like the pop's back into a step. Remember, he's come back from leukemia and an ACL. And this depth chart at the wide receiver position, though, it's pretty gagged up. It's pretty murky. But John Mechie, second-round draft pick, nuanced route runner, could be a surprise asset, especially you got Robert Woods, Noah Brown there. He could jump the depth chart. Would it be enough to be productive? Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs. However, you look at the depth chart last year, injuries, and Stephon Diggs, older wide receivers. Not like they really added to that. It's just something you need to pay attention to. And if you're into this offense, you're into CJ Stroud, then you may want to get the ancillary pass catchers who have dirt cheap ADP, who are free. And then if you got to move on, you got to move on, because that's how the game is played. But those are some ideas for you. I know you got some as well. Drop those in the comments below. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.